It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 442. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar. Grace.
Oh, thank goodness I'm not first.
Kodra.
The A's return.
And Tam.
Hello.
Yeah, now you have a comfortable buffer again.
Hooray.
So I shuffled the topic list a little bit so I could get this one out of the way quickly. It's almost Blaugust time. Blaugust signups are available. If you have no clue what Blaugust is, it is basically an event that I run every year trying to tempt people into blogging on the regular. And this is the 10th year and also the 10th time we've run a Blaugust. Because there was a year that I didn't run Blaugust, but then there was 2020 when I technically ran 2 Blaugust events. So
it was in like April.
Yeah, there was a Blaugust in April, and then there was Blapril, and then there was a Blaugust event as well because people
nobody was doing anything else in April.
Yeah, it was an awful time. We're not even going to talk about it. like there were a lot of things that were needed in April to distract people.
And Blaugust is super relevant because this is us. Like, Blaugust has successfully bridged the gap from the time when blogging was relevant before back now to the time when blogging is relevant once again.
It's true. Owning your own site on the internet is going to become ever more relevant in the coming years. Like that was
through this period too. Just to point that out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like, it's what's kind of cool is because of the shakeup on Twitter. I am now engaged with a whole brand new group of people along with some of the original people and had a bunch of new people sign up this week. I think we're up to around 30 signups and we still have like 2 weeks to go until August. So I'm hoping that means it's going to be a banner year. If you're interested, all the details are on aggronaut.com. You can click the Blaugust icon in the sidebar and get all the relevant details, or watch your social media platform of choice. There will probably be people doing hashtag Blaugust 2023. So yeah, join in. Another topic that slid around just now is I don't know if we've talked about this on the show. I know we've talked about the saga of the One Ring serialized card, but it has been found.
The One of One Ring?
The One of One Ring. It caused box prices to plummet, and was apparently found by a card shop employee in Canada. And I think the final bounty was $2 million.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear about, after the dust settles and everyone's been paid, I want to hear about the epic quest that this person went on to secret this card across the desolate plains of Canada to get it successfully graded by a company so that they could then secret it away to, I think, Post Malone to get $2 million for it.
I think so. That was, I believe, the final target. And like, the sad thing is like, here's this One of One Ring, and I want to say like it got a 9 grading.
I mean, that's fine.
I mean,
it doesn't really matter.
It is the best graded version of that card that will exist, but
exactly,
until a bunch of them slip out from, Wizards headquarters that there were, other versions. But anyway,
it wasn't actually one of one. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now I'm curious to know how many of the rest of the rings have been collected. Because there's been several soul rings I've been seeing that have been going for like $5,000. So it's not like the chase is completely dead.
Yeah, and I think the other rings of power are in the neighborhood of, 2,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I think I've seen, they get reprinted as Soul Rings though.
Right. Which, I mean, a fancy Soul Ring is always going to be, swagger for your deck, I guess, because, everybody's going to want to play with a Soul Ring.
Till they ban it from the Commander.
I guess. Like I feel
Wait, is
like
there
the
talk about
Soul...
doing that?
Oh, there's always talk about banning Soul Ring.
Yeah, but
I
they're
feel
never
like-
gonna do it. It's like the symbol of the format.
Right. Soul Ring is the unsung hero of Commander.
Yeah, but so okay, all right. Let's talk about this. Is Soul Ring good for Commander? Because like it means
It is
that
the best fast mana card you're allowed to play.
it's the best but is having access to that good of a fast mana card healthy? Like, because Soul Ring starts are just kind of busted.
I mean, I think the problem is, like, it's a card that everyone essentially has to run.
Yeah, exactly. It by almost definitionally like reduces deck diversity.
It's like, oh man, hey, it's the auto includes question.
Yep. But there's like a whole list of mana rocks that people are probably going to put into every deck.
Yeah, but a lot of those are colored mana rocks. This goes into literally every deck because it's colorless.
Yeah.
So, I mean, mostly my take on this sort of thing is auto includes are bad. Full stop. That, however, has the caveat that assumes that your auto includes, like, the prices that you pay for things are normalized, because we're usually talking about minis games. The thing about Soul Ring is that it's relatively inexpensive, even compared to some of the like other less good things you could include.
Yeah,
I tend to agree. That's true, but like, I guess my problem is it's literally it's not even like, oh, this is an auto include if you play white. This is an auto include if you play Commander.
Sure, but I think that the alternative is, okay, you ban Soul Ring, now the next best thing is the thing everyone has to take, and that next best thing costs 10 times as much.
Next best thing is an Arcane Signet.
Yeah,
and then what, a
there's people who've been
Felwar Stone
talking-
or something like that?
So usually when you have this discussion, people then bring up Arcane Signet and Command Tower, and then the question is, are those healthy for Commander?
Yeah,
They're also auto includes.
That's why I say, like, if you're just moving down to the next best auto include, then what you're really talking about is either banning to the point where you're getting to stuff that's just not good enough to field, or sweeping bans across an entire subtype.
Yeah, I think the issue with these is that it's less that it's more that they are they are auto includes in every deck regardless of archetype or anything. And I think there's not a lot of cards that fit that bill.
I mean, Command Tower is definitely one of them. Unless you play monocolor, there's no reason not to play this card.
Yeah. And same with Arcane Signet almost. Like that's the problem with those cards, is they are just like, they are two cards. This is three cards that you have. Your deck is now 97 cards that you select rather than 100.
Yeah, that's where you get to sweeping bans. Maybe fast. If Soul Ring is too good, maybe everything that does that is too good.
Well, but like, at least I'm not gonna play a Gruul Signet in my blue-white control deck.
Yeah, but that it's still the same thing, just
Well, I mean,
with more fragmentation and less accessibility.
I feel like we're still paying for the sins of the past. Like, because Moxes existed, all these other things existed.
Yeah, but Moxes are very reasonably banned in Commander.
Right, but like, everyone has been chasing the next best thing to a Mox.
At least a lot of those things have at least some downside or deck building requirement. Although I think, is Chrome Mox also banned? Or
Nope.
not Chrome, Mox Diamond? Which is the one that makes you discard a card?
It's not bad.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is like, Sol Ring doesn't bother me because at least Sol Ring is trivial to get a hold of, unlike a Lion's Eye Diamond or something like that.
Yeah,
But Lion's Eye requires you to have a deck built around it. I mean, they kind of printed a Black Lotus, but for your Commander, and not a lot of people are playing it. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think it took off that much, no.
Yeah, I know everyone was freaking out about it, but I don't think it really made the splash people thought it would.
I think it's usually because casting your commander isn't that big of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other aspect of this is that healthy for the game in this case is a question of what is the game and what is healthy. If Commander were a, cutthroat competitive format, then yeah, it might be, but it's the opposite. It's the casual play, easy to get into, in which case having a very accessible include this as one of your 100 cards, because boy,
It's
it is
hard
a-
enough to find 99 cards to go with your commander.
I guess that's fair.
yeah, like this is actually an accessibility card more. It becomes an accessibility card more than a, hey, you can stop worrying because actually something like, yes, you need to come up with 100 cards, but actually 35 of them, 40 of them are easy to know what they are.
And a lot of these staples that we're talking about literally come in commander starters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Soul Ring and Command Tower have been in every single command starter that was not monocolor. I think Soul Ring's even in the monocolor ones. They printed fun new versions for the Warhammer decks.
I think there's multiple themed versions of all of them, aren't there?
Yeah, I have a few fancy Soul Rings.
Yeah. Which also
Which is another reason I might somewhat oppose the ban. People who play Commander a lot already have this card. A lot of it, in fact.
Yeah.
Well, and like, to be fair, like, one of the nice things about a Sol Ring is if they need to add a chase card to something or a fancy card to give away in play, like, it can always be a Sol Ring, and it is never a useless card.
Yeah, it's like,
And it
goes back to
minimizes
being
the
like,
damage
the
of what they
format
could
for
do
it?
to it. I don't know. I think it will be interesting to find out what the total shakeout of the Lord of the Rings set is going to be. Although, like, all the speculators have already moved on to the new hotness,
I don't even know what the
sorcery,
is.
the thing that's trying to be classic magic.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I feel like trying to be classic magic is a bad choice.
It's a choice. I mean, people were interested in Classic WoW.
Yeah, that got problematic pretty quick, as I have heard.
The culture that sprung up around it is real problematic.
Yeah, it was definitely cool for, like, I don't know, the like first little nostalgia push.
I mean,
I'll give it that.
I had a lot of fun right up into the point where Blizzard proved themselves to be shitholes and made me not want to play anything Blizzard related.
Yeah, fair.
Like, that's what got me out of Classic the first time. I was having a lot of fun with it until that point. I'm like, I don't feel good playing a Blizzard product right now.
Yep.
I wish them all the luck with their hardcore nonsense that they're trying to do.
That's definitely its own thing.
Yup.
That's not a game designed for that playstyle. So, good luck.
I mean, it will also be interesting to see if the ActiBliz acquisition actually goes through.
It's inching along.
Yeah, we'll see. It is sort of going.
There's discussion about them going ahead and closing and then just dealing with the ramifications if a ruling goes the other way.
Wouldn't really surprise me.
It's kind of the ask for forgiveness approach, but I don't know. It'll be
I
interesting.
mean, yeah, because you can just pay with that with money.
Yep. So, Kodra, you are having to deal with the Steam Deck as a PC replacement right now, aren't you?
I am.
How is that going?
So it was going a lot better until my USB-C hub gave up the smoke. But so the Steam Deck has a USB-C charger. And I was like, great, that's how I get power in. Then I was like, hey, I have this hub here that's a USB-C hub that has a port on it where I can supply power to the hub, and then it can bypass through the hub power to the device. And also I have HDMI and USB. So I plugged in a monitor and a mouse and a keyboard and a gamepad. And I was like, what happens if I plug all of this into it? And it just works. It just works. It's a tiny little computer that you can plug into if you have the proper hub setup. You just plug it in. And I was playing Guild Wars on it. Guild Wars 2, that is.
I got to be honest, this is kind of my game plan for travel.
Yeah.
It's a great game plan for travel.
Okay, so independent of the Steam Deck, I have been using desktop Linux a lot more, and it is fine. Like it is a perfectly fine thing now. It is not the jank mess that it once was. Like it's mostly just a cogent operating system.
The Steam Deck is like one of those pieces of hardware that I now feel, at this point, having used it for a while, feel pretty good just unreservedly recommending, almost no matter who I'm talking to, because it manages to hit the magic of being just eminently hackable for almost anything you want to do within reason with it, while also just working out of the box.
Right. Yeah, no. I mean,
So
SteamOS is amazing for a hands-off install or completely screwing with
I don't
everything.
want to have to think about how this works. Just let me install my games and get going.
Yeah, no, it's great for that. But it's also great for I'm gonna, use it as a remote desktop client and play things off my PC with it. Or
Because behind the scenes, it's a modified Arch Linux install.
Yeah,
And that's nonsense.
it's really clean, but
But they keep it behind the scenes, which is kind of the
Mhm.
important part, quite frankly.
yeah. Yeah, the fact that it's like, oh, you pulled it out of the box and you turned it on and you installed a game and it worked and you didn't have to do anything difficult. Incredible.
well, and
Depending on what the game was, at least.
and there's little things like the fact that because it has multiple trackpad surfaces, you can just use it like it's a mouse and still navigate the desktop mode without much issue.
no, stop.
Like
What are you saying, Bell?
I-
So
I-
we're
I
not
could-
overselling. We're not overselling the Steam
like
Deck. We are.
like I can navigate desktop Linux on the Steam Deck
I
with just using the controls.
I can
I
as
can
well
too,
if
but
I
I don't
want to
like
be
it.
angry with myself.
Ah. I mean, I feel like the controls are not awful.
I've had what I felt like so many I've had so many trackpad press inputs eaten trying to no, I get frustrated with that. I want a mouse.
I have no problem with their like double trackpad system, but I also have an incredibly light touch on all of my technology. So, I mean, the trackpads are fairly sensitive.
They're fine. It's just I don't want to try and navigate that interface like it was a mouse. It is definitely not. It's not even as good as like a MacBook trackpad.
See, I kind of dig the triggers as your left or right mouse button.
Interesting. Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just
okay.
I move my thumb to move the mouse and then I click with the triggers.
Okay, I didn't realize that was a feature. I was trying.
It is not intuitive.
I was trying, and this does work. It's not a good idea, but I was trying to press in on the trackpads.
Oh God! I'm sorry.
As my mouse click, which does work.
Also did not know for mouse.
So this is good news. Good things to learn. That's not intuitive. That you can use your triggers as right and left mouse click, and I will do that because what happens is you try and move your trackpad to the right place, and then you try and click on it, and your cursor moves.
It's muscle memory now, but if I remember correctly, it's actually backwards. That your left trigger is your right click, and your left trigger is your. Anyway, they're flipped.
They're flipped because that's what do you consider primary versus what do you consider secondary normally.
Right, which I mean, a mouse is intended for a right-hander to have their primary on the left button, so that's why left click is the main one.
Yeah.
But also, if you are right-handed, you're probably going to want your right hand to be doing the main clicking. So that makes sense. That way I have it reversed.
Yes, your shooty button is your left click.
I did successfully manage to get OBS installed, TeamSpeak installed, and Olympus installed, and I was able to stream to Twitch from my Steam Deck using OBS on my Steam Deck, modded Celeste this Monday.
Okay, that is nonsense. That the Steam Deck is powerful enough to run a stream and play the game. I
mean, the game is Celeste.
Yeah, that's still impressive. I'm sorry.
It was pretty impressive. It held up pretty well.
It also means you are doing an amount of hacking that would make Bell proud.
I do need to stress, Bell makes the hacking sound like somewhat cool. There is is it flat pack?
Oh,
This comes with flat pack.
Right. Like
all right.
most of what you're doing, you can just install software. Like
all of this, like I went to Everest and they're like, "Oh, you're trying to install me for Linux? Do you know about Flatpak?" And I was like, "What's Flatpak?" And then the SteamOS was like, "You have Flatpak installed." And I was like, "What does that mean?" Just search for Olympus, and I did, and there it was.
yeah.
So Canonical, who make a really, really popularized really want to make Flatpak popular, and it's extremely useful. But there are situations in which it is not useful, and people who install Ubuntu tend to be in those situations. But for something like the Steam Deck, man, that's a good choice.
Yeah, like
the Steam Deck, hacking the Steam Deck makes me feel like that old Hacker Typer website where you could do things that look super complicated, except that it's actually like it's almost insultingly easy if you know what's going on, but it looks really cool.
Okay.
You could be like, I'm doing a crazy cool thing.
But also, to be fair, some of the stuff that I've done did require me to run a bunch of shell commands.
I have done 0 shell commands.
But I like the best thing that I ever found is that you could use Steam Link as an RDP client for your Steam Deck. And
what is
then
Steam Link?
Steam Link is like a stripped down version of Steam Remote Play that's a standalone application. And if you install that on Mac or PC, you can use it to connect into your Steam Deck while you're booted into desktop mode, and then you just get to use the keyboard and monitor that a computer has if you're connected into your Steam Deck. Like, it's not desktop replacement useful, but if I want to just run some stuff in desktop mode on my Steam Deck, I do it over Steam Link. It was easier to do than installing Parsec and actually, because there is no Parsec host for Steam Deck, unfortunately.
Anyways, I've gone back and looked at my stream. I didn't notice any performance issues, and I had like possibly even less performance issues playing on the Steam Deck than I did on my home PC. Because I will, like, sometimes I have like slight frame loss, and like if you lose a frame in Celeste, you're dead. It's not great. So it was really fun. I beat Flying Battery. I am now 7 of 8 green expert maps done. Steam Deck also recognized that the Pocket controller is a Switch controller and put it into Nintendo mode, but then had an option to say, take this out of Nintendo mode, which I appreciated.
I mean, the other unsung hero of the Steam Deck is community control layouts, where people have designed their own control layouts that you could just download and use.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. And like, they were trying to tell me I should download and use some community control layout for Guild Wars, and I was like, I think I'm going to use a mouse and keyboard.
Okay. There are a couple reasonable Guild Wars 2 layouts that I've heard of, but
define reasonable.
So the one that I'm thinking of has done a bunch of pop-up menu stuff off of your trackpads, so that you can quick access to the different like the H menu and stuff like that off of your trackpad, your left trackpad.
I never got good enough at Final Fantasy XIV with a controller. I can't imagine I would be able to, and that's how everything is. Like, Final Fantasy XIV has kind of like, if you are doing hotbar combat and you have a controller, they're going to use the Final Fantasy XIV style, and I do not enjoy that style.
I'm not good at it either, mind you, but like, if you wanted to do some stuff, you're probably fine.
I guess if I was playing on my Mechanist, it would be fine, because that is just me running around and trying not to die while my mech kills everything.
Sure would love to see official controller support so that you didn't have to rely on a on some specific community layout.
Wasn't there some sort of like controller hinted at target camera thing that they did a few years back?
Yeah. You have to change a bunch of stuff in your settings to really make it work well, but I know. So speaking of like community layouts, I've played quite a bit of New World on Steam Deck, and it was mostly just to run around and harvest stuff. but there were two specific layouts that the community had created, and there was one of them that worked for me, so I just ran with it and adapted my mind to the way that it was laid out. Because playing traditional PC MMOs is absolutely possible on a Steam Deck. It just is going to require various levels of nonsense. I am happy to find out that you have been living off the Steam Deck just fine.
Yeah, and I will say I would probably unreservedly recommend this too. And if for some reason your power doesn't seem to be like fully charging or anything, just RMA that. Don't listen to them. Don't buy into their lies. They'll try and tell you, oh, we have this software fix for it. No, send it to them, have them give you a new one, and it's great. Like, I will say, like, this having RMA'd one of these, like, it was one of those situations where I both felt like I was a little bit gaslit by the support team. Was like, oh no, this is kind of possibly your fault for not charging it right. And no, this device does not care about being overcharged or undercharged or anything like that. I just had a defective one.
You have it on and it's nearly fully charged. It'll run in pass-through mode anyway.
Like, I don't know. Like, once I had a lot of like once I got my RMA one, I was like definitely treating it with a lot of kid gloves because I was like worried I was gonna break this one too. And no, this is a fantastic device. Just make sure you don't have a defective one.
The day I got mine, I bricked it and then was able to unbrick it.
What did you do, Bell?
If you fill up the system partition, it doesn't boot anymore.
How?
Bell, what were you doing in the system partition?
Look, I copied stuff to the wrong mount.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was copying to my SD card. It was fine.
This is the problem with giving you access to a terminal.
It was fine. I was able to unbrick it. Like, okay, the only reason why I know anything tech-wise is because of several situations where I screwed up the family computer and then had to fix it before Dad got home. Look, like that is how I learn best when things are horrifically broken. It's a great system though.
I am curious about some of the competitors now. Like Asus came out with a ROG Ally, which is a very Steam Deck-like system. Yeah,
the big thing that I've heard from everyone that has used both is the Asus device is technically better and more performant, but the interface is significantly worse. That the Steam Deck still has much better software. And at this point, it's so far ahead in the usability department and the community support department that it's going to be hard for anybody to really catch up to where the Steam Deck is in a usability standpoint. That the Asus device is a good device, but it's kind of janky right now, and it needs a lot of system support. And as someone who has owned many Asus systems over the years, they don't tend to really like to. No, they don't tend to like to support anything after like a year.
Yeah.
I once bought an Asus Android tablet.
I have an Asus laptop.
I
also once bought an Asus Android tablet.
I don't know that it ever got any updates. So yeah, I mean that's the Ioneo. The latest one supposedly runs excessively hot. But the biggest problem with all of them is just the price point. Is they tend to be priced like a laptop instead of the obvious loss at which Steam is selling this device.
Weird to see Valve behaving like a console manufacturer, but they kind of are.
Yeah, no, like you can absolutely tell they're taking a bath on this device, but I think it's driving more and more people to Steam as a platform. So,
not sure why they thought that was necessary.
I mean, probably scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as things they can do to get more people on Steam at this point.
Well, okay, but the big thing that the Steam Deck has done is it has greatly increased their market share in Japan.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
Which is in part why Nintendo has been so aggressive about, going back to try and legislate emulation, because what's the best emulation device on the market? a SteamDeck, and it's now real popular in Japan. It's got a cute mascot. Just over the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, I have noticed a significant uptick in Japanese players in Western games. And I have to think it's because of the, increased visibility of Steam. So I have seen so many people talking about Dave the Diver. This is a weird game. I started playing it today.
It's so I've been playing a lot of it, and I can't tell you. I couldn't really tell you why. I just want to see what happens next. Like,
it's so many different games in one. It almost feels like a mobile game, but like the good parts of mobile games, because there's so many little systems that you unlock, like the whole Pokemon system, and the fact that you're a short order, like you got the whole short order cook kind of thing going on in the sushi bar, and then you're exploring underwater and discovering like ancient civilization ruins, but also needing to like harpoon enough fish to be able to keep the sushi bar open that night.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts.
It's very I mean, thus far it kind of reminds me in a weird way of a different take on like Stardew Valley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got a lot of different things I could be doing, but I need to I'm gonna go back to my core gameplay loop, and like eventually I'll figure out what all of this stuff is.
I'm kind of hoping that like I think I just unlocked the ability to hire additional help, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe I will get to largely ignore the sushi bar mechanic.
I've only started with the sushi bar, so I'm enjoying it thus far. Pouring tea is stressful.
It is. Yeah, okay, so I guess to look at a high level, you're basically a diver, and you have been roped into helping out a friend of yours keep his sushi bar open.
Your friend is like sketchy as hell, by the way.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like this isn't like, oh, you're a good friend. It's like this is probably a scam that your friend is running.
Mean,
you're gonna take the fall for it too at some point.
Yeah.
You were done with the diving life. You were done, and they had to pull you back in. You were enjoying the sun-kissed beaches, and then it's like, hey man, I need you. Why? I'm retired. Need you to dive.
This is such a different vibe that I got from my intro to this game.
I don't know, like the intro is literally, I mean, obviously it's very different because like your character is like, wait, are you gonna let me eat fish? Yes, I'm in.
Yeah, wait, I have unlimited sushi? Sure.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. The little undertone there.
I also, I mean, the idea is that you're also in this magical place where all of the fish in the world are. And so this is their excuse to let you catch all of the fish possible and put it on a sushi menu.
Yeah, I mean, because there's this blue hole that you can go diving in. I mean,
it's clearly haunted in some terrifying way. But whatever, that's not what you're there for, at least at first.
Yeah, until like random people taxi up to your boat and tell you to go on missions. The guy that drives around in a duck boat is the best guy. Like the paddling duck boat guy. It's a weird game.
I think that part of the charm is that like it subverts your expectations basically immediately, and from then on, like you don't know what's going to come next. It could be a relatively mundane, find some rare fish, or like, I don't know, somebody comes up to you and is like, hey, dolphins killed my parents, get revenge for me. And you go find the dolphins. The dolphins are like, man, we totally didn't do that. Help us solve the crime.
I don't know, man. Dolphins are jerks.
Like, on one hand, I think Grace would love this game, but on the other hand, I think Grace would be eternally sad at all the fish that have to get harpooned to basically keep the menu open.
Yeah. I mean, I love all sea creatures except maybe dolphins, but also lots of them are very delicious.
That's actually like a really concise vibe for this entire game, because it really is. I mean, the art is for a pixel game, for a pixel art game, like the art is surprisingly great, and it's like kind of cool watching the little schools of fish go around and scatter in a panic, and much more agile than you are when you completely fail to hit them with the harpoon. They're like, "Whoa, all right, we're out." And you're like, "Man,
Fighting anything that is difficult is a challenge."
I'm like an overweight retired guy in flippers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even belong here."
Wait, you want me to go take down a shark? Okay.
Yeah, like, I was getting my world rocked by jellyfish like the other day. This isn't. I am the wrong person for this job, but I'm the only one diving here to like help my friend's sushi restaurant or whatever.
And
it's,
then,
it's
like,
such a deeply weird, but like really chill and enjoyable little game. Like I keep finding myself coming back to it.
there's so many weird interactions that happen. Like, if you fire your harpoon through a lionfish, it poisons the tip of your harpoon. And then you can use it to take down bigger things.
What?
Yes.
I needed something after Exocolonist, and this has become that thing. Like, what weird thing is going to happen next? I don't know. I'm not ruling very many things out, I'll be honest.
But, like, it cracks me up that everything is interfaced through an iPhone app. You know,
Like,
weapon upgrades, suit upgrades, everything's an iPhone app that somebody installs for you.
Yeah, the details through the whole thing are great.
Every time you upgrade a dish, you get like this intense cutscene of the chef's journey through learning a new dish.
It arguably beats out what's his name learning a new recipe.
Ignis?
Yeah, Ignis.
Yep.
The new chef is like comically into his job.
The chef reminds me of the chef from God, I can't think of the name of the cartoon series. It was like a cartoon series that was a play on Survivor.
Total Drama Island?
Total Drama Island, yep. It is. The chef is kind of like the chef from that show, but also a samurai, maybe? It's a weird game. And like basically in every day you can realistically like go down twice before having to go back to open the sushi bar that's only open at night for some reason.
I was gonna say the chef also reminds me of the chef from Durarara.
Yes, that was definitely the one that I thought of.
Because I believe that is also a sushi chef, right?
I think so.
Yes. He is a sushi set. I can't say words.
So is damage all in the form of your oxygen bar in this?
Yes.
You
lose oxygen if you take damage.
I was about to say I got in a scrap with a tigerfish, or not a something. I got in a scrap with something, and it decided that it wanted a piece of me, and I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre how this is like blown up in every feed. Like Syl was even playing this the other day.
It is definitely weird how widespread. Like I hadn't heard of it except that it was just incredibly widespread word of mouth.
Right, like it was widespread enough that I was wondering if this was the next Frog Fractions. Just from out of nowhere to like suddenly everywhere.
I did start playing Exocolonist, at least a little bit, and it definitely seems like a game I need to play more of. But like we're having a lot of good indie games coming out right now. It's great.
Yeah, this is been a good year for the last like year and a half or so has been really good for just great indie releases. Everybody knows that Hollow Knight Silk Song isn't coming out, so they're like, gotta get the game out. Go.
Hit the window.
There can only be one.
Apparently Baldur's Gate 3 is becoming there can only be one game for right now.
No, I cannot wait for Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm very excited about Baldur's Gate 3.
Although everyone appears to be confused like I am, thinking it's actually like out of early access, but it's not until August.
No, August 3rd.
Yeah, but notably, one thing I did find out is they have said once we get out of early access, there will be multi-classing, so I can make my hilariously broken bard. I look forward to playing Severe in that game.
I went straight to Barbarian.
Let's get in 5e.
And then I got sidetracked into the whole bear thing in my brain.
There's a video game I've owned for basically forever, but never played, called Barbarian or Barbarian or something like that, which is exactly what it says on the tin.
I mean, that sounds great. Like, roll around as a bear in almost any context. I'm not even that hugely into playing games about anthropomorphic characters, but I'd still play that one. Roll around bear and stuff.
I mean, to be fair, like that's the best thing that the druid from Diablo 4 had going for it was bear form. And it's one of the better things about bears in Last Epoch.
Primalist and Last Epoch has so many good builds, though.
It does.
That some of them involve bears, it's just kind of icing on the cake.
Werebears have always been cool.
Maybe they'll remember that next time an Elder Scrolls game comes out.
So we were talking about this pre-show, and I threw it on the list. Pizza Tower.
That's trolling me.
I mean, some of these games, there's a very fine line between game that you will love and game that was sent to troll you. I believe the letter V 6 times was sent to me to troll me, and it turned out I loved it.
This is false.
I thought you would like it.
This was false. It was sent to Ash to troll him.
Correct.
Who saw it and was like, actually, I think Kodra would like this, and sent it to you because he genuinely thought you would like it.
Okay. So Pizza Tower, as I mentioned, I should play Pizza Tower because it's a game that a lot of people who play a lot of games I like have been talking very highly about, because it's an extremely precise speed platformer. But it's definitely got an art style that I like. It's got an art style that feels like slightly like MS Paint is the art style. And that's not an art style I am 100% behind, which is where I'm kind of getting lost on it.
I mentioned this game is kind of a follow-up to the Wario Land series, the last of which was on the Game Boy Advance. But they are very much known for their what's the animation term for just completely disregarding your model? I think it's possibly like breaking or something.
Oh, like what your character looks like doesn't matter what shapes you're going to have your character do as they're in motion?
Yes. And Pizza Tower is definitely following very strongly in that line of thought, like, except even more so. So, like, Peppino looks kind of reasonable standing still and becomes unreasonable the moment motion happens.
And the way the game wants to be played is that motion is never not happening.
Right.
Like, and I think this is a little bit of where I get a little lost in it is I think I'm a little bit more of I don't actually want to be going that fast all of the time. I kind of want to sit and stare at something for a while and figure out what I'm trying to do and then do something cool and fast. But like you go into this place and a timer starts and you need to be going as fast, you need to be trying to complete as much as possible so that you can get in, get to the end, and then go all the way back before the timer finishes.
The timer doesn't actually start until you need to go back in most levels. There's some exceptions. But like you aren't timed until you break the pillar and the Pizza Time song starts playing. There is one level where that pillar is at the very start, but that's the exception, not the rule.
But it's definitely it's a game where, and like this is a thing that doesn't necessarily motivate me, but like at the end of every screen, at the end of every level, I beat the level and I'm like, whew, that was rough. I beat that level though. That's exciting. And then it tells me I did a bad job and I should try again to do a better job. And I'm just not motivated to try and do a better job.
Yeah. Because what it really wants you to do is to have a perfect playthrough and get P's on all the levels.
Well, I mean, that's the aspiration there.
Or at least continue your combo enough to get something higher than a D rank.
Yeah. The one thing that I will unreservedly say I love about it is the music. Especially It's Pizza Time. It's Pizza Time is a great song.
I played this game for about an hour and a half. but I played it before bed, so with no sound.
Oh, yeah. I think
And
sound is probably a good 50% of my enjoyment of this game.
It's not just the music either. It uses sound cues for a lot of things.
Well, that would explain why all of the controls feel bad to me. There's so my the reason I asked about it is because like the art style doesn't actually bother me baseline. Like, yeah, it's doing the MS Paint cartoon thing, but it's broadly doing the MS Paint cartoon thing in a way that understands like why people like that style. So it's, whether or not I like the style, it's like executed well, except for its animation transitions, which are just pops, which feels like it goes against the way that style operates.
Most all of the animation transitions that are just pops also have a corresponding sound cues.
Right, which basically is like, oh, hey, this is my view went from this game feels really bad to, oh, this game is just inaccessible. Like, this game has accessibility issues.
Yeah, I could definitely believe that.
Because like I mean, there's a section at the beginning that clearly wants you to like slalom down a back and forth zigzag area, keeping enough speed to break the block at the beginning or end of each like section, and that took me 20 minutes because it was not at all clear to me when I would smash into the wall versus slide down it and keep on going in the other direction, and there's just no messaging for it.
Pino has I'm going to call it interesting moveset, in that there's a lot of momentum in a lot of things, but also you can stop on a dime to do like super dashes and things like that. So when you need to do what versus what is weird.
Yeah.
That part kind of is inherited from Mario Land 4, which did not have the like super like the upwards version of that, which Pepino does, but
the
has a lot of the other parts.
The upwards version is definitely the one that I have the hardest time with. Granted, they try and give you as much wiggle room as they feel you should use, but I still frequently miss with it.
I think my first engagement with this was watching a YouTube video where someone went from hating the game to loving the game the more they got deep down in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I can see that. I guess this also happened to me with Celeste, but at least Celeste kept me hooked to get me into the rabbit hole, is what I would say. And Pizza
Celeste
Tower
has a significantly better, I would say one of the best in the freaking business on ramps.
Yeah.
Celeste is incredibly good at that. Like, I really enjoyed playing through as much of Celeste as I decided I wanted to.
Yeah.
Which is reasonable.
And like it wasn't like, oh, I hit the end and stopped. Like, I did some of the bonus stuff. I just didn't feel like I wanted to do more of it. And the game was like, yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
That's fine. You saw the good bits. There's more good bits, but you don't need all of the good bits to feel like you've had the full game experience.
Yeah, and that's what I think Pizza Tower is lacking. And frankly, like, again, I sort of got into Celeste and I was like, oh man, this is a genre I clearly need to look more into. None of the other games that I've played have had as that type of on-ramp. Like, your best in the business is definitely the right phrase for this. Because like, I went back and did Dust Force and I was like, oh, this isn't like, I am not being compelled to keep going with this. The same way, like, there was an interesting story going on in Celeste and I wanted to find out more about the story, and that got me engaged in the mechanics.
No, Dust Force has no story and only sort of barely tells you how to play it.
It's interesting because it has a lot of text. It has like a bunch of tutorial text, but the tutorial text doesn't do a great job of telling you how to play it. I mean, to the point where it's not even clear. Like, it wasn't even clear until I heard y'all talk about it this evening that the game is about going fast. Like, that's just not clear at all.
So take this back a bit, because again, this game is clearly aimed at people who played a specific Game Boy Advance game that wasn't that popular, which is definitely limiting its appeal somewhat. I think that game is on Switch though, if you want to actually play it. So maybe give it a shot. Anyway,
maybe I should play that, which probably has a story and might on-ramp me into these mechanics.
Does have a story.
Yeah.
I mean, the story is silly because it's a Wario game.
Sure, but like there's probably more of a story than there is with Pepino.
Only barely, but sure. But like that game, does not ask you to go that fast in order to do the thing it does. Because it absolutely does put a timer on you. Like you have to collect 4 things, hit a switch, and at this point you are timed and must make it out of the level from your starting point. And for the most part, you do not have to be that fast in order to do this without issue. Also, the penalty for failing is you start losing your income for that level. You start losing all your gold. And only once you run out of all of your gold do you actually lose. So there's a lot of not fast you can be and still do fine in that game. I do know from having seen speedrunners do it that some of the timers in later levels in Pizza Tower are a little tight.
It is a wild game though to watch somebody speed run.
I'm trying to think of other games that are sequels to games that are non-obvious sequels to other games. Because they definitely exist. But like Nintendo's not making any more Wario Land games.
It's true. They tried for a little while. There was one that you shouldn't play that's on the DS.
Oh, I played that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And slightly before that, there was one on the GameCube after Wario Land 4, which people say is good, but I never played.
You know, I think that I confused the DS one with Wario Land 4.
The one on the DS was Master of Disguise, and it was when they were trying to shoehorn touchscreen gimmicks into everything that came out on the DS.
Yeah, it was awful.
And there's a victim of that, yeah.
I think my favorite spiritual successor is Bloodstained, because we're not going to get another Symphony of the Night. I mean, an Undertale, to some extent, feels like a spiritual successor to Earthbound.
I don't really agree with that.
Man, Undertale.
A lot of people say that, but I don't agree with that at all.
Undertale is weird. It is a spiritual successor to a number of things.
Earthbound also got an actual sequel that I wish they would release in English at some point ever.
Which one?
Earthbound.
Didn't they release it as part of the...
No, they did not.
I was thinking they did.
They released Earthbound 0.
Okay.
But Mother 3 is still, I mean, it's been translated by fans for a long time, but is still not officially released in English.
Yeah. It's non-trivial to get a hold of.
I mean, Balan Wonderworld told us it was a spiritual successor to Nights into Dreams, but I don't believe it.
Nights into Dreams is a game that, having played it, I feel like has a lot of rose-colored glasses associated with it.
Yeah. I mean...
I wouldn't call it bad, but I would also call it a little uninteresting.
Right, yeah. Like I'm not going to call that game bad.
It was doing interesting things at the time it came out.
Yeah. I mean, see also, and I need to be very, very clear that I'm talking about a specific entry in the series, because this series got much better, like, on Game 2. But Spyro the Dragon 1, it's not terrible, but it's not, like, great. They really pulled it together
better
for the
than
sequel.
Crash 1.
The what?
It aged a lot better than Crash 1.
Okay.
But people got to find out when those games got re-released.
I mean, okay, yes. Yes, that is 100% true. Hoo boy, Crash 1.
The game that people hold a candle for on the PC gaming side that I've never fully understood is MDK, which is a weird third-party shooter.
Yeah, that game wasn't good. I'm just gonna say it.
Like there are people that loved that game though.
I mean, that's totally fine. Like let's be fair, there are plenty of objectively bad games that I love.
It was told by Shiny. No, I know nothing about this game. This was before my time playing PC games.
It was the thing that Shiny did after Earthworm Jim. And that in itself disappointed me because it wasn't as good as Earthworm Jim. I
mean, I became more aware of Shiny Entertainment's post Earthworm Jim work because of a recent video about Tommy Tallarico. But it's interesting to see that this is on the list.
Tempted to choose violence and comment that Tunic is a sequel to Legend of Zelda.
I mean,
but Dream Dark Game Heroes is a sequel to Legend of Zelda.
Lots of games are sequels to Legend of Zelda, but Tunic is a weird thing.
I don't really like Tunic is not really doing the same thing as a Zelda game. It has many of the same trappings, but like
Tunic is doing Tunic is doing something very similar to Zelda / Metroidvania games, but it's doing it in almost a Celeste style way. Like I always joke that Celeste is one of my favorite Metroidvanias. Eventually, you play it for a bunch of times, and eventually, it teaches you about tech that you could have literally used throughout the entire game. And this recontextualizes everything. And Tunic is also doing that. I don't know. Eventually, the statute of limitations on Tunic spoilers will be up, but boy, that game has some funny moments to it. Did you ever play that one, Tam?
I played through a decent chunk of it, but also its timing wasn't like amazing for me.
Reasonable.
Like summer of 2022 is a little busy.
Yeah, I understand.
I think it released earlier in 2022, but it was bad for me as well for different reasons.
It was like late March.
Yeah, that was not a good time for me. I just don't need to go back to that game.
Yeah, in many ways, Tunic wants you to think it's a spiritual successor to Legend of Zelda because tricking you into believing that is part of its gimmick.
It's fair.
I'm still mad 3D Dot Game Heroes is stuck on the PS3 and stuck physically at that, so people cannot play this game that is definitely a spiritual successor to Zelda 1. What a weird game that was.
Also, sadly, PS3 emulation is a bear to run. Tam, why is Battlezone 98 on the list?
I've owned this for a while. This was like one of my favorite games as a kid, and I hadn't loaded up the remaster because I was like, probably not that good. And I'm wrong. Like, that game held up. There are very, very few games like it, and I like almost all of them. I think I've talked about Sacrifice before, but like it's an RTS where you play as one of the units in a vehicle in first person, and like it works. It's cool. It abstracts the right things out so that playing an RTS while you're in it is reasonable. But mostly, I'm just surprised that the remaster just worked.
There's a game like that came out a couple of years ago, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was. Because, like, you either controlled, like, a tank or a hovercraft, and the rest of your army was, an RTS, basically. But you're leading the troops as a vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be silly here and say Brutal Legend, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm drawing a blank.
I don't remember what it's called.
Right, it had like a little bit of a splash when it came out, but I can't think of it. And it's only about 2 years ago, I think. I mean, Brutal Legends is also sort of doing that thing, but like, I didn't want that game to be an RTS, and that's my key problem with it. I kind of wanted it to either be a 3D platformer kind of a Spyro-y game, or I don't know, some kind of an action adventure kind of game.
Yeah, they maybe build that game as something that it was not.
It's true, unfortunately. Well, and this is why I like the Battlezone 98, and they also redid Battlezone 2, which is the thing I'm more excited to try, because when that game came out, it was like graphics card melting. I could not run it. I couldn't play it at all. And I always really wanted to, because it was like Battlezone, but looks even better. And like, it's basically impossible to, now that I can call it Battlezone 98, I can actually like look it up and find it, because looking up Battlezone is just, and people talking about it is just not a thing you can find anywhere. Like SEO on that is just garbage. But man, I remember loving this game, and I remember why I loved this game. I played almost as much multiplayer on this game as I did StarCraft. But it's also it's one of those things where I look at some of the design of what it's doing, and it's such a pity that games like this didn't take off more, because they would be like, I think that RTSs could have survived if they had done more of a transition here, because it's just got a better sense of, hey, let's simplify the tech tree and make your like base a thing that you plan out in a few ways that make a meaningful difference to you, the individual player. Because like, you don't actually have that many buildings, and this never happens in multiplayer, but in the campaign and in custom missions, a lot of the like core components of your base are mobile. So there's some really cool missions where it's like, hey, you set up a base, you fight off some stuff, and then you need to move and set up. You need to like move and escort your base to a new location and set things up there. And like, do you send? There's a bunch of, do you defend your own base? Because you can do that. you can do that very well by yourself. Like you are better than any 3 or 4 individual like units, or do you go attack the base yourself at the risk of like getting caught out, but keep all of your keep the majority of your forces back to defend your base? Like there's a bunch of interesting choices you can make based on like what you're capable of doing. And then also you can switch vehicles all the time. And the different vehicles are pretty neat and very like they feel very different.
This sounds like the good Warriors games.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of the similar decision making going on. They have no tech tree, essentially. But like you need to decide where you are going to put your pressure because you're better than the NPCs. But the NPCs can still do stuff in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So you can command them and send them to places. And where do you need to focus on in this ongoing huge battle?
Yeah, and this is a little bit more skirmishy than that.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of the same. It's got a lot of the same stuff, and it's got a really heavy emphasis on movement. And I think it's got a similar, like very similar vibe. And it's neat seeing how it like you have a little bit more control over what units and stuff you have, but like where you personally apply pressure is really important. And like one of the things that I remember is that, and that came back real quick, is I'm a starkly better pilot than any NPC. So I can get to places faster and places that are hard to get to, like working my way up onto plateaus and stuff to bypass defenses. So I don't need to frontal assault this base. I can, sneak in. Although I have had to remember a few things, like enemies do know that where you are, like can identify you when you're on foot and decide to do something about that. And like, yes, you can snipe enemies out of their cockpits and take their vehicles, but be really sure what you're doing. But yeah, I had forgotten how much I enjoyed this game, and it's really fun to see that it's held up this long. It's still like the experience I remember, and I mean the fidelity's kind of low, but it's doing all the same stuff. I definitely have a better appreciation for units that I just did not appreciate when I was a child. Turns out being able to hit enemies that are out of line of sight is good. It's real good. Also, the main tank has big, doofy, angry eyes, which I secretly enjoy.
Do we have any short topics?
It is the middle of July, so we're about halfway through the 4 Job Fiesta.
I think I might finish this one.
Have you already wrapped it up, Ash?
I have not, no.
I'm into World 3, and I have beat Melusine, which is like, I think probably, like, I don't think there's a bunch of difficult stuff before I go into the interdimensional rift at this point.
No, you're kind of in the run-around phase.
Yeah, like, you get stuff that I care about. Like, I've never actually gotten Bahamut, so maybe I'll do that, because I've got Summoner.
It's real easy. Really, really easy.
Golem is overpowered. That was, like, my lessons learned from this. Golem is better than healing, because it's damage you don't take. And it's a lot of it. It's so much. I did have to do a couple of attempts on Melusine. I did have to do a second attempt on Melusine, which is annoying because that is a long cutscene.
It sure is.
But
watch all the places get voided.
Yes, my party is the Vestigial Monk, and then Summoner, Ninja, Chemist. Which does mean I need to figure out how I'm getting Dragon Fangs and Dark Matter and Turtle Shells.
I mean, you get Dragon Fangs by summoning Odin in the Rift. I guess that's a thing you could do. I hadn't thought about.
I should go get Odin, but it's definitely good that I'm planning on turning my monk into this big burly bartender.
Good plan.
Because monks can't wear hairpins.
You only get 2 of those anyway.
Yep. So one's going on the chemist and one's going on the summoner. And
monks also can't use knives, which I think is the larger problem.
It is. Both of these are big problems. I can have my chemist and my summoner wield knives, and so I'm all knife all the time party, except for my big burly bartender who is mixing up some giant cocktails. What is your party, Ash?
My party is Bard, Ranger.
Okay, yeah.
Time Mage.
Yeah.
And Monk.
Oh.
So my Monk is actually going to be doing significant damage because Time Mage means I can give them Kaiser Knuckles and still have them be hasted. So they can do a lot of damage. Because, monk damage wears off near the end of World 1 and does not pick up again until you get an item in the Undersea Trench in World 3.
Can I even get Leviathan in my game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I thought that was part of the bonus content.
No, Leviathan is in the false.
Ah.
In FF6, Leviathan is missing and was added in the advanced release.
Aha.
Bismarck is the water summon in that game.
Which could mean, if I wanted to go through the effort, I could get Leviathan and theoretically have the most powerful summon in the game. Because I do have Chemist and Summoner.
You could do this. It's not worth it. Bahamut can hit the damage cap.
Isn't Sildra better than Bahamut?
Sildra is barely worse, but costs like a third of the MP.
Ah. Is it that because Bahamut can pierce defenses?
No, Bahamut just has a very, very high power, and the power of Chemist and or Bard can give you enough magic and enough levels to just hit the damage gap with it.
Ah.
If you spend some time in the first form of Final X-Death, Tree X-Death, Neo can just go BO over very, very quickly.
And Tree X-Death is just that much less threatening.
It's not threatening until you get low health there. So, although White Hole you can't be completely immune to in this version, so that's a little sad. Actually, Chemist probably can make you completely immune to it. Now that I think about that, Chemist is busted.
Chemist is one of those like classes where it's why we have a chat channel specifically for Job Fiesta, just so I can say, hey Ash, like what's the trick with Chemist? Like this mix list is too big. What should I care about?
The stuff that doubles your health, the stuff that raises your level, the stuff that makes you immune to bad stuff.
Yeah.
And the HP drain mix in case you want Chemist to do damage ever.
But I
sort of
care.
not their forte.
That's not what that monk is there for.
I think there are some mixes that do damage based on your character's health, so maybe that monk is there for that.
Maybe. That's funny. And then my ninja is going to be using the Sasuke's katana and the chicken knife. Because he has chicken knife. I'm guessing your ranger will be using your chicken knife?
Absolutely. Rapid fire chicken knife is one of the best things you can do in the game.
Rapid fire chicken knife is pretty good, I hear.
Well, that is probably a show. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this evening's mini discussions, and we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Congrats to a game that has beat its all-time player record, Team Fortress 2. Good night.
See you.